Next Level Arborist. My name is Jeremy Lowney. We'll be talking about tree roots. So welcome, and I hope you like this. This first series of videos is about tree physiology and functions. Roots are often overlooked and underappreciated. Roots are one of the most critical parts of a tree and require special care. They're like lungs in the body. They're a huge part of our vascular system. Our lungs are very important. In fact, a long time ago, I was working, chipping brush, and I had some pain in my back, and I went to a doctor, and he said one of my lungs had collapsed. So I had some smoking damage on my lungs. I was working one day, and one of my lungs completely collapsed. And because of that, the rest of my body started to shut down. Well, tree roots are very similar. So just like lungs are important for moving oxygen to different parts of the body, tree roots are incredibly important for moving water and nutrients and oxygen throughout the tree. Yes, you can survive on a partial lung, but you won't be as healthy and vigorous, and your vital organs may not work as well. If you cut too much lung out, sadly you will die. If you plug them up with toxic substances, you may also suffer, as you know, which was what happened in my case. So the same is true with roots. Tree roots are responsible for water absorption, number one. Number two, oxygen absorption. Number three, mineral absorption. And number four, anchoring the tree. So first of all, the most important thing to understand is that about 90% of tree roots are in the upper 2 feet of soil. So that's very important to know. Water is absorbed by small root hairs. Water is primarily transferred by a process called osmosis. Evapotranspiration is believed to be sucking water from above. As it's exhaling excess moisture out through the leaves, the stomata in the leaves, which are opening and closing depending on temperature and light. And that sucking action that happens, it's sort of like a pump. As water is released and vapor is released through the leaves, it's actually drawing water up through the cells in the tree. But wait, there's more. There's some serious liquid physics going on here. How does a tree transport water 300 feet up in a tree? That is a very good question to ask a physicist. The answer to that question is in a video. I'm putting a link in the description below. It truly is a miracle in itself that a tree can push water upwards against gravity up 300 feet in the air or more, sometimes even 400 feet. At the same time, photosynthesis is taking place in the leaves, and those sugars and starches are flowing down the tree through the phloem. Water is transported through the xylem up the tree, and nutrients or photosynthates are being transported down the tree through the phloem. Roots are also very sensitive. I've attached a little video clip here talking about a tree in my own front yard which was damaged by construction early on when they graded the pad. This tree was nearly dead when we first moved here, and the reason it nearly died was because of the impacts to the root zone. This pad was graded down about 6 to 8 inches, and so when we first showed up here, these roots were exposed. You can see where the root flare is, somewhere around here. Yeah, the root collar is there. You can see the division of roots in different spots here around this tree. Here's another look on the back side. You can see where these roots are transitioning from the trunk to the root system, and how the grade must have been much different before we bought this property 20 years ago. Oftentimes in urban areas, the topsoil is removed to get to more stable and easily compactable soils. Topsoil is rarely returned to planting areas. The planting area typically consists of more bare mineral soils and close to bedrock. These are nutrient-poor soils. Soil amendment is often needed for tree planting. The moisture content can be affected by a variety of things. One thing that we encounter here in California very often is drought. So drought causes reduced water availability. Moisture content is also affected when the irrigation is cut off. Here's a great example. Here's a nice healthy lawn. Nice healthy overgrown pear tree. Next door, we shut the irrigation off. We've got dead grass in the median and the front yard, and this magnolia tree here is looking really stressed. On a side note, last night I was watching a video by a certified arborist who produced a video about how trees do not break pipes. He was claiming that trees only break pipes when they find cracks and leaks inside of a pipe. I had to send him a message or a comment to explain how roots grow under pipes, they grow over pipes, they'll grow around pipes, they'll completely encase a pipe, and as those roots grow in diameter, they often lift or push or pinch off a pipe and break them very easily. So it's very common actually for tree roots to break pipes even when the pipes are not leaking. Excessive heat and climate change can also affect the moisture content in soil. As average global temperatures are increasing, as well as extreme weather patterns, which we see all the time these days, trees can suffer from these changes and radical swings. Drainage changes. I've produced another video here to show how drainage changes can really affect a tree.
How did this tree die? All the other trees around it are perfectly healthy, but you can see this tree is in a drainage. So what's happened here is the road base that's been added over the years is washing down through this gully. I don't know if you can see that very well. And it's making a right turn right here off of this little retaining wall. And it has been collecting in the root system here for a very long time. So that road base that's washed down there in the drainage is probably over a foot deep, maybe 18 inches deep. Well, here's a better angle. See that? It's just all road base all the way over here near the trunk. So here's the trunk of the tree. Look at the decay in this guy.
Changes to soil cover, such as impervious layers. When landscape changes are made, such as grading or installation of impervious surface, that really affects the soil moisture. Grading can cause moisture to evaporate much more quickly, and roots and root hairs to be exposed. Changes such as removing a lawn or associated sprinklers can also cause soils to evaporate much more quickly. So anytime that tree roots are scraped or cut, root hairs are being removed and decreasing the absorption surface area of roots, and thus decreasing the availability of moisture and nutrients to the tree. Oxygen absorption is very similar to water absorption. Trees need to breathe. Oxygen is cut off due to compaction. A lot of times roots will come up to the surface because of availability of moisture and oxygen. One of the biggest problems I see with root health is people adding too much soil or lawn over the top of a root system. When roots are used to a certain oxygen level or oxygen availability, and something changes abruptly in the root system, they can be impacted. When their environment changes in radical ways, for example, building a retaining wall near a mature tree and then backfilling to the base of that tree, adding topsoil for a landscape project, adding in a sprinkler system over the top of that topsoil, adding sod over the top of that irrigated soil, all of these combined can certainly cause oxygen levels to be decreased.
This concerns me. Anytime walls are built around the trunks of trees, I get nervous, especially when they have utilities like this leading into them, because you know there was a lot of tractor work and trenching and soil added over the root system over here, impervious layers, drains, irrigation, all kinds of stuff. Fortunately, this can drain out through the rocks if it rains really hard. This tree is going to suffer over time. I think it won't be too long before they might have to think about doing something different here.
Oxygen is often found at the surface in shallow soils, which is also why tree roots are found in the top 24 inches of soil. Mineral absorption. Macronutrients such as nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, and magnesium are very important. These can be found commonly in organic soils. Micronutrients such as boron, copper, iron, chloride, magnesium, molybdenum, nickel, and zinc are some of the micronutrients often found in soils. These micronutrients and macronutrients are soluble in water so that root hairs can absorb these nutrients essential to plant growth. Nutrient deficiencies can also look the same as underwatering, overwatering. Sometimes excessive salts caused by manure can also lead to these symptoms. Finally, one of the most important aspects of root function is anchoring. Tree roots are very irregular. We don't know exactly where tree roots are because they're underground. They often compensate for environmental conditions, such as wind or slope. In very general terms, roots extend 1.5 to 2 times of the canopy or the drip line of the tree. Trees have an amazing ability to anchor themselves firmly to the ground. The tallest trees in the world rarely fall down without extreme conditions, such as snow loading, supersaturated soils, or excessive wind, such as hurricane force winds or tornadoes. Oftentimes, trees really are able to support themselves under natural loads. Soil structure plays an important role in root anchoring since soils have different physical properties. Roots which can anchor themselves to bedrock or rock fissures are much more stable. Roots in sandy loam or even clay soils, when supersaturated, are very prone to root failure. Root failure will be discussed in another video. In summary, tree roots, root physiology, root function, root impacts, soil health, and soil structure are all vital to healthy plant growth. Oftentimes, it's very important to assess these issues to understand the health and the longevity of trees. Thank you very much.